Hi, my name is John Link, and today I want to discuss life in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Now, professor, classmates, you're going to wake up one morning, possibly freezing cold, not necessarily in the mood to get out of bed. You think to yourself, I wonder what it'd like to move away from the mainland and down to the Caribbean. Maybe you're watching a movie or a show such as Gilligan's Island, and as you're watching, you think to yourself, wow, that looks like absolute paradise. Well, I had the urge to move away from a very familiar and cold life in New York and to start a new one in the middle of the U.S. Virgin Islands of the Caribbean roughly 8 years ago. And when I finally made the move, I was in a part of the world that I wasn't as familiar with. Now, it always helps us as people to make the decisions such as moving easier if you are familiar with the pros and cons of that particular area. This is really because change is inevitable, and when you move to a new area, there is change. Not only that, but as Dr. Steve Frisch states in his online news column, How to Cope with Change, humans are creatures of habit that feel safe and secure by the presence of consistency and predictability. But have no fear, by the time I am done with this, you will fully understand what there is to do for fun, what types of job and career opportunities are available, and what the average cost of living is in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Now, the first question that I'm typically asked by visitors is, what is there to do for fun in the islands? Now, a very popular activity for Virgin Islanders is to have a barbecue on the beach with many friends. Now, having a barbecue anywhere is always a good time. Would you rather be in your backyard or on a world-famous beach such as Magens Bay? Picture yourself eating a delicious meal. After the meal, you dive into crystal clear blue waters, white sand, water so clear that you can see animals such as stingrays cruising along the ocean floor, and that's the case regardless if it's 5 feet or 65 feet down. Now, Magens Bay is only one of the 40 major beaches that are accessible to the public, so the venue choices are practically endless. There are also many different types of water activities to participate in, such as scuba diving. Now, according to ScubaAdvisor.com, which is a website that is very well known for providing the most accurate scuba diving information, the trio of U.S. Virgin Islands, which are St. Croix, St. John, and St. Thomas, have one major thing in common, and that is phenomenal scuba diving. Now, you can dive in many different marine environments, such as shipwrecks or walls that look as if they plunge down to the center of Earth. But no matter where you dive, you will always come across some of the most beautiful types of fish and coral that come in every color imaginable and will actually feed out of your hands. Imagine swimming through the water with food such as a milk bone, which is very popular with the fish down here, and you see hundreds of different rainbow-colored fish just following your every move, waiting for the second for you to reach out just far enough for them to nibble whatever snack it is that you brought for them for the day. Now, another popular activity is also boating around the many islands that surround the U.S. Virgin Islands. Whether you prefer a leisurely sailboat or a fast powerboat, being on the water with hundreds of islands surrounding you in every direction in the middle of the Caribbean is priceless. When me and my friends go out for a weekend ride, we like to stop at a minimum of 3 or 4 islands before we choose one that we want to hang out and relax on. Now, each island is different like a person. They each, of course, look different, but they each have their own personality. So, God forbid you're sick of one island, you have a completely different set of islands that are just a few minutes away for you to choose from. Now, although the U.S. Virgin Islands may seem like fun and games and the ultimate paradise, we do also have to make a living. So, the second question that I'm typically asked by visitors is, what types of job and career opportunities are available? Now, many residents tend to work in the hospitality industry, and that includes hotels, restaurants, bars. Not only can you meet a lot of people and have a lot of fun, but you can make a lot of good money. According to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, tourism is the primary source of revenue with around 2 million visitors each year. And for those of you who enjoy dealing with people, there are plenty of fun restaurants and bars to work at, such as the world-famous Señor Frogs, which I'm sure many of you have heard of. There are also your everyday jobs that are similar no matter where in the world you go to, such as hospitals, utilities, construction, road work, things of that nature. if you have a strong background in a particular field, you can actually usually find a job before you move from the States and come down here, which makes things a lot more convenient when you think about moving. A friend of mine, for example, used to sell medical supplies in New York. And he thought to himself one day he wanted to leave the States and come down and try his luck down here. So he reached out to the company that he was working for and worked out a deal. They actually gave him the opportunity to come down here and be the regional manager for the U.S. Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. Now, not only is he still doing what he's familiar with and good at, but he actually gets to travel island to island practically expense-free, which is a huge plus. Another huge perk that comes with living in the islands is the fact that you can meet many different influential people that do many different things around the world. Now, although you can meet anyone anywhere, living on a small island that people tend to vacate to makes it almost seem like a high school, and I mean that in a good way because you have a much greater opportunity to meet these people when opportunities arise from that. When I first moved down to the island, I was working in a fine dining restaurant. Now, one evening I was taking care of a group of wealthy gentlemen. At the end of their dinner, they asked me to come over. They told me how well I took care of them, and I, of course, thanked them for that. And they asked me if I was interested in pursuing a career that offers excellent benefits. Who wouldn't? So I sat down for a bit, enjoyed a glass of wine with them, and they said they were down here in the island, scoping everything out, seeing if they wanted to move their headquarters down here for a government program. And they offered me the job, and I took that job. It's actually my current job, and it was honestly one of the best decisions and best opportunities that ever came to me. And this is just one example of countless stories that I hear from people that I have met down here. Now that you know what we do for fun, as well as what we do for work, it's important to know what we spend our money on, what the average cost of living is. Now, compared to a major city such as New York, food and utilities are more expensive. According to some figures that I found on Numbeo.com, which is an internet database that provides up-to-date information on living conditions around the world, an inexpensive meal in New York costs approximately $15, and that's $10 less than the $25 average that we pay down here in the islands. I've also worked in the utility industry for many years, so I can tell you that residents of New York typically pay an average of 12 cents a kilowatt hour. Now that's compared to the 53 cents that we pay down here. That's 5 times the amount in New York. It's actually 3 times the national average, so very expensive, and both of those things are obviously on the downside. But as far as rent goes, it's actually reasonably cheap compared to a city like New York. Again, numbers that I found on Numbeo.com say that the average cost of a one-bedroom apartment in New York City is approximately $2,900, which is unbelievable to me. On the other hand, the average cost of a one-bedroom apartment down here in St. Thomas, which is the New York of the U.S. Virgin Islands, costs only about $560. Huge difference. Now, as you can see, although some necessities are more expensive, others are less expensive, which really makes the cost of living very similar to a major city in the States. I personally feel that everywhere has its ups and its downs, and the U.S. Virgin Islands are no exception. Although living in the U.S. Virgin Islands can be expensive, with commodities such as food and electricity, the cheaper rent really balances things out. Now, there are plenty of extracurricular, leisurely activities to be a part of, such as barbecuing on a beach with friends, scuba diving, or island hopping, which make it very enjoyable. Just imagine moving down to the U.S. Virgin Islands tomorrow and being able to hop on a boat this weekend and throw all your daily stress and worries away. Not many places in the world can you do that. There's also many jobs and to take advantage of and money to make, and that's regardless if you want to work in the restaurant industry or sell medical supplies like the friend I mentioned earlier. But either way, all of these things make the U.S. Virgin Islands a great place to live, which is why I would personally recommend living in the U.S. Virgin Islands for anyone that was interested in moving away from the mainland and trying their luck down in the Caribbean. Thank you very much.